Hey, ladies and gents, welcome to the Controlled Interest Gamecast, where we talk about video games and everything happening in the industry. Episode 153, as always, I'm joined by Jordan.
Greetings and salutations, Jared. It's great to have you back on the show. How are you today?
I'm doing great, and returning this week after a week-long hiatus, Dom. What's up, Dom?
Praise the sun.
Praise the sun. Since you weren't with us last week, how about you start us off and let us know what you've been playing?
Oh boy, do I have an exciting list of no
Nothing.
new games. Just a whole lot of Red Dead Redemption 2.
Cool.
And it's still Red Dead 2, so...
Who's your favorite of the Vanderlyn gang so far?
Okay, of our gang, I mean...
Not Arthur Morgan, like he's excluded, obviously, like anybody else.
Sure. John
What
Marston
about
is
John
like
Marston?
He's kind of like a... Ugh. Micah is pretty interesting. I can't stand him, but you know what I mean, that makes him interesting.
Yeah.
Because he kind of brings light to where, like, Dutch, you can tell, is like an absolute scumbag, but kind of like has this front of like justifying, and he's got himself convinced of what everything they do is, you know, for a good reason. You know, I don't that typical thing. And Arthur's kind of somewhere in the middle, but then Micah is just kind of like, let's go fuck shit up, or you know what I mean? Like, I bust him out of jail, literally like hook a spoilers for chapter whatever. I hook a winch or whatever up to the wall of this, you know, western jail, and just pull the wall out. Yeah, and then we're like, you know, like, let's escape, and he's like, well, hang on, and then we like take a detour, and meanwhile shooting like everyone in this town because they're all like just manslaughter, just murder all over, just so he could go and steal his guns back from this guy, and like. I don't know. It was interesting. Everything that goes on is really super interesting. It's weird. The simplest missions are super engaged. It reminds me a lot of The Witcher 3, but it's smaller. It's a smaller cast of characters. It's not necessarily like, at least so far, it's not like, you know, random side quests where an old woman is interesting. But yeah, I really like him so far. But I have only done one mission now with Sadie Adler, and
That's my favorite character.
Oh, Sadie Adler!
Yeah. Right at the beginning, you can tell, like, oh, yeah, she's going to be interesting. But I've not done enough, you know, had enough with her yet. But I'm sure she'll be pretty cool.
Her and Charles, who's the Native American, they're my two favorite characters.
Oh yeah, Charles is pretty cool too. There's a lot of cool characters in this game. Like,
yeah,
yeah.
Molly O'Shea, I think, is the Irish girl, and yeah. Bill Williamson, obviously.
Seems like y'all are forgetting about old John Marston.
John Marston is kind of like a... I don't really care about him, to be honest. He's just... I don't know.
I may have been relegated to a side character in this particular game.
It's funny, though, because of the period of video game storytelling that the original Red Dead came out in. It was, like, right before, like, the Last of Us or Uncharted, like, wave, right? Of it really getting into it. Red Dead 2 does a lot more for John Marston's character than the first Red Dead game did. Damn. It, like, retroactively, but even though this is a prequel, yeah, it does a lot more for his character.
It shows you, like, what he was in the life that he's constantly referencing in the first game.
Yeah. Anything else other than Red Dead, Don?
No, that's all I've been playing. I would point out, we turned it back on HBO, so, I mean... And we've been watching the hell out of just HBO in general. So I watched all of Big Little Lies, which is excellent. And it's a travesty that they're not doing a third season. But also watched Euphoria. There's actually one more episode.
Show?
Yeah, there's one more episode still to come out in this first season. I assume it's just the first season. I don't know if they're doing more or not. But that's been super good. I feel like people's criticisms are interesting, but... it's very realistic, I think. I mean, I've seen all that shit happen, right?
Yeah.
It's not like I wasn't personally similar to most of the characters in the show, but like, yeah, that's the kind of shit that happens in
It's a good show for
so.
Zendaya in terms of showing her range as an actress, so she doesn't just get pigeonholed to like the Mary Jane or Michelle Jones role, you know, from the Spider-Man movies.
Yeah.
It's good for her.
Yeah, she's super good. But yeah, I think it's cool in general, and I hope like a lot of parents, frankly, watch it. And like, I think that there's a lot that goes on that parents are oblivious to. I mean, I don't know what high school was like for our parents, but I mean, what goes on in that show is more or less like the shit that I remember seeing. So It's
Have
so
you,
shocking to so many people.
being on HBO, have you dipped your toes into Barry? Because that's a show I also want to dip my toes into, but haven't yet.
No,
Finish that one up.
it's on the list for me too. I do want to check that out. So
Very short season, right? It's like 3 or 4 episodes the first season. 3 episodes.
Barry? No, it's regular. It's like 10.
Oh, I thought the first season was like 3.
Nah.
Okay. Maybe the site I was looking at was listing them in a weird way. Yeah, my bad.
but yeah, that's the gist of it. So just more Red Dead and a bunch of TV shows. So
Nice. Jordan, you? What have you been doing?
I think the Barry seasons are 8, Jared. 8 episodes.
You're probably right. It was a weird site too. It was like Voodoo or something, or some like weird rental site. So
I'm just trying to get the number right, but what I've been playing, gentlemen, what I've been playing is a game called Fire Emblem 3 Houses.
really, okay, cool.
I am about 25 hours into this game.
damn.
So you barely started.
Yeah, that came out since our last podcast. And I am clearly enjoying it quite a bit. I will say that, I know, Dom, you weren't here last week, but basically what I was saying that I think it will be on last week's show was essentially completely correct. That the visuals were not going to be up to par, but that the gameplay itself would be, just engaging and fun strategy combat, and that the story may or may not pull me in. And I will say that probably my biggest complaint is the visuals. They have, and I really don't think that this is a power situation with the Switch, right? I really don't think that it has anything to do with the Switch's hardware architecture. I think it really comes down to artistic design choices that in a lot of situations I think were poorly made choices. Things like, for one, I played Fire Emblem Shadows of Valentia, which is the remake, I think, of like one of the very early games. I know it's a remake, I can't remember which one. But that came out on 3DS within the last couple of years. And so like for that game, and I'm pretty sure any other Fire Emblem game before this, if you were looking at a cutscene, that would be basically like traditional 2D anime that you would find in, Jared, you were watching Cowboy Bebop, anything like that, basically, just your run-of-the-mill anime.
Yeah.
And I really love games like that from Japan where it's like, well, we're fucking good at anime over here, and we're doing this JRPG in an anime style, the character design, so the cutscenes are just going to be like from an anime episode, essentially. The Ni no Kuni games or the Persona games, the list goes on, right? But with this one, they decided, like in Shadows of Valentia, it's gorgeous 2D cutscenes. They're few and far between, but when you get them, it's great. And with these, they are 3D CG. And especially in anime in particular, that has been a very rocky situation for years now because, as you know, 3D animation is much more difficult to nail than 2D animation. And there's been, plenty of situations where it's just gone awry. For reference, you could look at like Berserk 2016, right? That's a good example of really bad 3D animation. Stuff like Knights of Sidonia on Netflix isn't as bad, but yeah. So I wish that they hadn't have done that, especially because the characters being animated the way that they are really does not mesh at all with the backgrounds. For one, the backgrounds are like ugly as sin. Like the textures are just bland as possible, like almost to the point of like PS2 looking type shit. And I'm going very far into this, but it is a big part of the game, especially Japanese games like this. I'm very interested in their presentation and their user interfaces, things like that. Because I think in a lot of situations they nail that. So yeah, that is a bit disappointing. When you're on a battlefield, the battlefield itself looks really bad, and I think that they could have just gone with something that may have been a little more timeless and a little more kind of artsy or stylized, like you see a game like Wind Waker doing, because this game is not going to age well at all from a visual standpoint, so that really sucks. And like I said, I think it's just because of poor artistic design choices, unfortunately. So that would be my biggest complaint. Got that out of the way. And now let me just say that the combat is really great. I think that I guess my other complaint with the game is that a lot of strategy games just get so goddamn intricate and so goddamn detailed, with all the different systems and mechanics that you're going through, and I feel like this game in particular has that, and Fire Emblem games that I've played in the past has that. When you're getting into the whole three houses thing, where it's basically like you're imagine being a professor in Harry Potter, essentially is what it is. You have a house that you're connected with. They go out on the battlefield with you. You're teaching them during the week. You're basically raising all these bars and these stats as you go. So if you think about it from a video game perspective, it's just like Persona, because you have your social links, which are called bonds in this game, and you're obviously trying to raise that. That's going to make you better in battle with those particular people especially. But like I said, it just gets so detailed, and there's stuff that just ends up being superfluous. And I think I find that in 99.9% of strategy games, which sucks because I've been getting way into that genre the last couple of years, and that is the biggest drawback for me. But like I said, the combat is really great. It's Fire Emblem is not an easy series when it comes to strategy. Most strategy games aren't. They tend to be very punishing, and I wouldn't say that Fire Emblem is necessarily punishing, because you have the Divine Pulse system, which can jump back in time if you need to go back a turn or whatever to fix a mistake, and if somebody dies or whatever. But I think that generally it's a really great challenge, and it is specifically the combat itself is intricate enough to stay interesting, but it's not necessarily overbearing. If anything is overbearing, that would be more the outside stuff, like I said, with the social links and the motivation levels and all the different stat bars that you're trying to fill. So there's that. But then the story, I will just say that it is a little more enjoyable than I expected it to be. It started out and I thought I was kind of just going to be going through it and experiencing it, but not falling in love with it. And then it has picked up, and it has gotten more intriguing and caught my attention a little bit more. I think that my kind of time spent with the characters has strengthened my interest in them, and so that helps. But the story itself is also kind of picking up pace where I'm at, so that's probably halfway or so. I'm not sure.
What happened with the decision we made last week?
So we made the decision. I let Jared choose if I was going to be permadeath or not, right?
Oh, nice.
Right. So Jared, I did choose permadeath. However, I've had people die, but then I've had the Divine Pulse, right? So I have used that.
Okay.
Yeah.
So is that like, is that against
fair.
your wishes?
No,
is that fair? I felt like that's fair because it's a part of the game. It's not like a only on easy mode or anything. That's just
funny
normal.
enough,
They actually introduced that in Valentia.
Funny enough, Dom, last week when we were talking about it, because he presented me the question, so I had to go through in my head all of the reasons why he should or shouldn't, right? So I was just loosely talking about it. And the way I was formatting it, you would assume that I was going to be like, definitely don't go permadeath. but I was saying it in a way to actually provide like more strength in the argument for why he should go permadeath. So at the last second, it kind of
curveball.
Exactly, it was pretty cool.
Yeah, I watched the Easy Allies review for this game, and that was one thing. I forget who wrote the review, but one thing that was mentioned was that even when you do classic mode, they have that feature built in that kind of slightly gets rid of the point of permadeath.
I think it alleviates it, right?
Yeah.
So people don't get as pissed off, probably.
Well, yeah, and that makes sense. It was just an interesting choice, being that they already had a mode that you could play without that, right? I don't know.
Yeah, it's like making the same mode twice, right? But it's also optional, right? You don't have to use it.
Yeah.
No, it's not
just
going to force you to use it at all. You get 3... You start out the game getting 3 Divine Pulse charges per match.
So that's the thing, is it's optional, Dom. So I think that's better. If it was like mandatory, then it'd be like a useless mode, right? Because then it's like, what's the point? But
and I get it
optional,
too.
You know.
I get it too, because apparently what a lot of people did was, oh no, so and so died, and they just power off their system. And it's like, well then why are you playing on that
one
mode?
rule is I said I will not reset a match just because somebody died, and I have not done that. I've only used Divine Pulse. I've quit out of a match because somebody got insta-killed the first shot, and I was like, oh, I'm clearly not prepared for this. So that was reset, but I didn't even continue on with the match. So I will say it's made me very cautious and thoughtful about every move. I'm healing people all the fucking time. I won't even let them get, halfway health down if I can help it.
So that's good. It still has that effect on the way you're playing.
It definitely has that effect, and
it could help his attachment
I've made
too.
It this far.
Yeah.
Oh yeah. The only reason I've made it this far is because of knowing this beforehand and really being thoughtful about it. But
cool.
The bonds that you connect, the way you connect with these characters, it is important to keep them from dying, because I don't know how it would affect the story or whatever, but I wouldn't want to lose them. So it's definitely changed my play style, I would say, in a positive way, because it's forced me to be better at the game. I think the only time I've lost is the very first practice match that you do. I lost a couple times just because I was like, it's still difficult to kind of like wrap your mind around all the stuff in the game and be good at it, I guess is the simplest way to put it. Just like, know how to attack and how to heal and all this other shit. So once I got the hang of it off the practice battle, then I was able to become very good at the game simply because I was so invested in like literally the strategy of it. So it's been a very enjoyable time, and I'll be playing a bunch more and have plenty more to say, I'm sure. So
it's going to be my Christmas... Sorry, I was just
about to say, definitely recommend it.
It's going to be my Christmas break game. I've already decided.
Yeah.
It's going to be a game I pick up in December, and I'm just going to play through it then.
Yeah. So I've been craving like a good RPG on the Switch, Maybe something less action based, and then so we got Fire Emblem now, and then we also have Dragon Quest XI coming out on Switch this year, and now the first Ni no Kuni, which I was always interested in, coming out on Switch.
Definitely.
So it's like there's all of a sudden like a huge influx of bigger RPGs hitting the console, which I think is pretty cool.
Well, in Dragon Quest XI, having that mode where you can switch to like classic graphics is really cool.
Yeah, dude.
Yeah, it's cool.
Shit.
It's like that Halo
cool shit.
mode where you can switch like mid level.
But on the Switch, it makes sense though, right? Because it's like handheld.
Right.
So yeah, the Xbox and PlayStation.
Well, and that would
PlayStation's a little weird. It's not on Xbox.
Sorry, that would probably alleviate my big issue with the whole visual thing. Especially like the characters not meshing with the backgrounds as well.
Yeah,
just keep it all one style.
Right. And just like the old school kind of like pixel art is gonna be better looking. I don't know if that's the right word for it, but it's just gonna hold up better, probably 9 times.
More timeless.
Yeah.
Right. Exactly. Timeless. The only other thing I wanted to say was that I chose the female protagonist.
Yellow.
You obviously have male and. What's that?
Is she the yellow one?
No. Okay, so check this out. You choose your I was laughing at how Fire Emblem fucking loves their blue hair and like teal hair. Like that's throughout anime, right? But Fire Emblem especially has so many blue-haired characters. So you choose between a blue-haired boy or a blue-haired girl, just basic.
Uh-huh.
And then you have the three houses are led by essentially what would be like a prefect in Harry Potter, and so you have like the Empire, the Alliance, and the Kingdom or whatever. And so I chose to go with the female in red on the cover, Edelgard, who's from the Empire and leads the Black Eagles. And then there's like the yellow stags and the blue lions.
Cool.
So,
before I hop into what I've been playing, is there anything else you wanted to mention?
that was obviously a big deal, and spent a lot of time talking about that. We also talked a little bit about Once Upon a Time in Hollywood before the show. I'll just say it is my least favorite Tarantino movie. I see where he was going with it, and I can appreciate what he was doing, but I think it is at almost 3 hours. It's definitely too long, and was quite bored throughout a solid chunk of that movie, and not just because it wasn't Tarantino action packed, like Kill Bill, for instance, but because there was literally nothing happening interesting, at least. So, fun fact about that movie, I feel like there's at least 10 minutes. There's multiple minutes of you watching a character watch a screen. So you're watching a screen, watching someone watching a screen.
Great.
For multiple minutes in that movie. Just a pro tip there. So yeah, that's how I feel about that. It's a solid film. I would definitely say it's worth watching, but certainly after the long and drawn out, basically stage play that is Hateful Eight, I think it's a little bit of a misstep. I think I wanted him to bring it after Hateful Eight, and that is certainly not what we got. So, yeah, that's my thoughts.
Yeah, I was meaning to go see it this weekend, but mixed reception and just me not having enough time to get around to it, I passed on it. And from what
Sure.
you're saying, I'll probably just wait for Netflix for it, more than likely.
Yeah, that's how I'm feeling about Hobbs and Shaw this weekend. We're just gonna wait and see.
In terms of what I've been playing, MTG, Magic the Gathering Arena as usual. Apex
go.
Legends, been playing some more Season 2. There's some rumblings that Season 3 they might be releasing single player mode, which the community has been asking for a while, because unlike all the other Battle Royale games, Apex Legends was built from the ground up for teams of 3. So it's going to be interesting with that if they introduce a smaller map or a different map and it's singles, right? So instead of teams of 3 up to 99 people, it's 100 individuals. So we'll see how that goes. Season 3 is still, I think, a couple of months away, so there's time there to figure out what's going to happen. What else? There is a game I finished, but I want to talk about that last. In terms of other media that I finished Stranger Things Season 3.
Okay.
Fell about where I expected. I like it more than Season 2.
Yes.
Like it less than Season 1. Really enjoyed it still,
Gotcha.
though.
We're in agreement.
Yeah. Finished. I watched the one show I've binged in a while. Last Chance U Season 4 dropped, which is like one of my favorite shows on Netflix.
Yeah.
If for those who are unfamiliar, it's a documentary series that follows junior colleges, a specific junior college. It changed from Season 2 to Season 3 to a different junior college, and it's basically when these really good players mess up at these D1 or Division 1 universities, they get removed from the team, and their only way to make it back into Division 1 is to go to these junior colleges and try to get enough film to earn opportunity elsewhere, right? So it's a lot of kids who come from broken homes or messed up situations, and the coach of the team, Jason Brown, is notorious for being an asshole. And he actually, here in 2019, he got fired because he sent a former player a text saying that it was a player from Germany, that he's his Hitler now. Obviously, that didn't go over well. And the text messages...
Wait, he said, "I'm your Hitler now" to the kid?
Yeah, exactly, yeah.
Okay.
He's known for being very brash and arrogant, and he wins games and stuff, but what happens in season 4 is that they don't necessarily end up winning. So I don't want to ruin it if anybody wants to watch it. But at the end of it, obviously the show stopped filming last fall when the football season ended. So this him getting fired happened afterwards, and that was added to the end of the show. So with season 5, it's interesting because we don't know if they're going to be following Independence Community College again, which is the school he coached at, or if it's going to go to a different school because he was a primary reason they got a lot of like the really good players. He's so good at recruiting despite his personality. Last year, they had the #1 junior college football player in the country playing for him. And that guy's now going to be playing at the University of Georgia, who's like one of the best college football programs in the country. So it's only 8 episodes. If you're interested in football or just an interesting human story of these troubled kids trying to deal with these asshole coaches, it's really cool because it plays on the coach, the players, and then some individuals at the schools they go to that really care about helping these kids pass and get a college education, right? So you're seeing it from 3 different perspectives, and they tend to follow a couple of specific players and tell their backstory of their life and everything they've been through and stuff like that. So it's a really good show. Finished that, and what's the other thing? Oh, I finished season 1 of Hunter x Hunter. Love that anime too.
You're watching that?
Yeah, been watching it for a while. The last episode was just like a recap episode, so there's really much there. But yeah, Hunter x Hunter is great. I'm
definitely on my list.
It reminds me a lot of the Pokemon. It reminds me a lot of Pokemon mixed with Dragon Ball Z. So it's like Pokemon in the sense that obviously it's the journey of a little kid, and it's about like friendships and stuff like that. But Dragon Ball in the sense that there's a lot of focus on fighting and martial arts and combat and stuff like that. So, and luckily the battles, unlike Dragon Ball, don't take like 4 episodes to finish. So that's good. And the game.
Can I give a quick shout out, Jared?
Good. I was waiting for you.
I forgot to mention. I finished Batman Beyond.
Oh, nice.
The cool out, the cyberpunk cool out, super shway all day. Batman Beyond, featuring Kevin Conroy as an old Bruce Wayne, mentoring a young new Batman.
I can't wait for the day when we get that live action adaptation. It won't. I don't think it'll happen anytime soon.
Give
but
me the Rocksteady video game, dude.
Ooh, yeah. Oh, so good. The one game I did
coming out on Blu-ray at least. That's all I need.
You don't think that in our lifetime a live action, or are you talking about the Batman game?
The game.
Oh,
will not happen.
Yeah, the movie, the way Hollywood works, that movie will eventually happen one day. Whether it's good or not, who knows?
We're gonna get a cyberpunk Batman something on live action.
Yeah.
Movie, I'd say no, but CW show or some shit like that, probably.
Yikes!
It's Batman. They'll figure out a way to put into something. It'll be a Batman Beyond.
I hope it's not in an Arrowverse crossover.
It'll be a Batman Beyond show, but it actually focuses on what's the Terry McGinnis's love interest in that show?
His girlfriend Dana?
Yeah, it'll focus on her, and it won't focus on actual Batman.
It'll just be called Dana.
Exactly.
And nobody will know it's a Batman
it's
show.
Like, what the hell? Yeah. Anyways, the one game I did beat is Super Mario Maker 2, quote unquote beat, obviously.
Nice.
Interesting enough, last week I talked about, Jordan, that I was like 35-ish levels in, right, to the 100 levels.
Yeah.
You don't need to beat all 100 to complete the castle and beat the game and roll credits. It's only around like 55 to 60, which isn't bad. You can still go and play the rest of the levels afterwards, but it came a lot quicker than I anticipated. That's what she said. And so after I had rolled credits, I continued playing the levels, and I'm currently sitting in the mid 70s. I think, high 70s. They're just great levels, man. They're Nintendo designed, Mario levels and all the different themes and styles of Super Mario Maker 2. So it's a blast to play through. Some of them are pretty difficult, actually way more difficult than any other 2D Mario game I've played. Like, they're willing to go there with this game because of all of the tools. And honestly, I think it's also to get people acclimated to the online course environment because there are super difficult levels there. So it's really cool because normally 2D Mario games or just Mario games in general are family oriented and they usually have a lower end of difficulty. And it was cool to play through these levels that were designed by Nintendo but are pretty difficult. They're not like super expert by any means where you're doing Kaizo jumps. But for Nintendo levels, they're pretty difficult and you have to get used to the mechanics and a lot of them are timing based. But I've had a blast. My plan is to finish all 100 levels and then play it whenever I feel like playing user-created levels. But I want to finish all 100 levels. So to me, like, I quote-unquote rolled credits, but I haven't completed it fully yet. I want to get through all of those levels because they're just so good. I was going to get Fire Emblem, but then I obviously talked about how I'm going to be getting it around the holidays. And I ended up purchasing Madden. I buy Madden every year because I just get so anxious for the football season. Last week I talked about Jordan, how I hadn't touched the Face of the Franchise or the regular franchise mode yet. I still haven't. I like to wait until it's closer to the beginning of the NFL season and training camp's done because I like to have the fully updated roster. So if a star player gets traded last second, I'm just very like neurotic about it of like, I'm playing the franchise, but he's still on the team he's not on in real life. You know what I mean?
Oh, wow.
So I kind of wait a little bit. Obviously, if those trades happen mid-season, I'm not going to completely restart. But here at the beginning of the season, I can wait a week or two because currently there's a lot of players trying to get new contracts. They might get traded. There's a running back from the Chargers and the Cowboys who are both trying to get new contracts, and they might be traded. So waiting a little bit on that.
So how well do they square up the roster updates? Because the players have got to be moving around all the fucking time.
NFL players actually don't move around a whole lot once the NFL season starts. The issue right now is that they have like 80-man rosters through training camp, and by the beginning of September, that needs to get cut down to 53 people, right? So it's a 53-man roster when the season begins, but you only suit up 46 people during the game. And very rarely do you see players move during the regular season. It's pretty much just now before the season starts, there's players getting cut, and people will see, oh, this guy got cut from this team, let's pick him up because the third best safety on one team could be the starter on another team depending on their talent, right? So these teams are sitting there waiting to see what players get cut at camp. So I'm just waiting for that, and I'm going to hop in. Face of the Franchise, you play as a quarterback. You got to choose a college, and you go through the college football tournament, and then you start your NFL career. So I'm really excited to see how that pans out. And then Franchise Mode, they added a system in the back end that's a situation or event creator. So normally people would get bored with Franchise Mode, but this creates storylines out of thin air. So like it could be Matt Stafford is in contract disputes with the Detroit Lions. Will he sit out the next couple of games? Aaron Rodgers was seen get suspended for 4-game performance-enhancing drugs, right? Just like random events that kind of spice up the franchise that don't make it feel as like boring and tedious.
You're not supposed to be doing those.
Exactly. Considering it's the first year of it being implemented, I doubt it's like great, but this gives me hope that this is a feature that could get enhanced and refined into the next gen.
Right.
So we'll see what happens. Right. Nothing else to report
Jared,
there.
Do you watch Internet Explorers?
Yeah.
So did you see the footage of the 2K players?
Oh, the voice acting? Yeah.
Yeah, where some of the actual NBA players come through and they just read the paper or the script, if it's digital or whatever. They just read the words like, make sure that you go talk to coach on a weekly basis because you want to make sure that you get better at playing basketball once you're in the pro leagues just like me.
That's why with the long shot, it had Mahershala Ali and Scott Porter, and they didn't really phone it in. Whereas it's obviously a player who's never done any of this in his life, and he's like, okay, just read these words. Hey, how's it going? Really good game out there, dude. You know what I mean? It's just like really bad.
Yeah, it's so rough, but it's funny that they continue to put the players in it. They get them in the booth. They do the whole 3D scan photogrammetry shit on them. It's like, these guys are not fucking actors, man.
The thing that sucks too is those are obviously it's funnier to get the worst of the worst, right? There's some NBA players like LeBron does a fantastic job, but like that guy's like more than
he's
an
been
NBA
on
player.
SNL 20 times.
Exactly.
He's in, movies and shit.
And he's also there's other players who maybe don't have that kind of thing, but they're also more like naturally charismatic, like Al Jefferson, the dude who's like the primary target in the video, is like a 7-foot guy who's not very outgoing. He's very monotone. It's like, obviously, that dude is going to come into the booth and not necessarily give it his all. You know what I mean? So,
right.
I think that's it for everything we've been playing. Let's hop into the news. Got some quickie news, and there's nothing major this week. There's a couple of things I wanted to touch on involving sales for Matt Piscatella and from GameSpot. But first, let's get into this quickie news. This was misreported in headlines because we live in the age of clickbait. It's still really awesome though. I'm not trying to take away from it. But so as of June 30th, 2019, the PlayStation 4 has shipped 100 million units. The clickbait came in when there was all these headlines of the PlayStation 4 has sold 100 million units. It's sold. Technically, that's not true. It's shipped.
Right.
But obviously, shipped doesn't get the same clicks as sold does. So it makes sense why they did that. But the really cool thing about this is it became the fastest console to ever reach this mark.
Or they just don't know the difference.
True. It's the fastest console to ever reach its mark. It passed the PlayStation 2 by just 3 months. So it barely came in under the hood there of hitting the record.
That is super interesting. I'm very glad that you gave that stat, Jared. It's going to be tough for it to continuously outpace PS2 from here on out because I don't think you'll see it as a cheap DVD player sale, like the PS2 was in its later days.
Yeah.
So, but it is a cheap media machine.
I also do think because of the age of the internet, we live in an age where I think people feel a lot more pressure to move on to the next system as opposed to because there's people who haven't bought a PS4 yet, and I think if they ever get to the point of buying a new console, they'd much more likely be buying the PS5 than the PS4. I think it'll still sell much, much more, but I don't think it's going to beat any other records in terms of total sales, We'll see. Yeah.
You also got to think because they kind of put it to an end themselves when they announced that, not announced, but shared that PS5 is going to be backwards compatible with PS4. So there's whoever read that, that's like one less piece of incentive to buy a PS4 now. Now you might as well wait if you're gonna.
They also announced their console a year and a half early, technically through that article. Remember that they did the interview. Mm-hmm. So that was pretty early too. Your point's really really good too that they kind of killed it themselves.
Yeah. Plus, you got now this threat of, not to get super economic, but this weird threat of these tariffs that could potentially, skyrocket the cost of all the consoles, which is crazy. But anyway,
I think PlayStation would be most affected because Nintendo has already started moving their manufacturing out of China, and I think Microsoft's already talked about a possible solution. And from everything, I think all of them will be affected, but it seems like PlayStation might be the one that takes the brunt of it, based on how they manufacture their consoles.
It sucks that in some South American countries they have to pay that much for consoles.
Brazil
for that
gets
reason.
Screwed, man. Oh my
god.
Yeah.
There are countries in the world where it sucks to be a gamer, basically.
Australia, right? You always hear.
Tip of the cap always to our Australian mates in the outback. But anyways, the thing about America and Europe and hell, even places like Mexico and Canada is they're just not going to sell a console for $1,000 or $600 like they used to. It's like they know better than to do that in the biggest markets in the world, and so they're going to shoot themselves in the foot quite that hard. I think they would certainly figure out a situation before it came to that, even if they were getting screwed by certain political aspects of the situation.
I suspect it's a bit, not that it's not a real threat, but I suspect it's a bit of trying to help the public understand the impact, like the literal impact, because I'm sure there's a lot of people out there that are like, oh yeah, we need to throw these tariffs on China because whatever the reasons. But then as soon as they start to see the effect of that, and Sony saying, yeah, we might have to pass the buck partially onto the customer and it's going to raise prices, then all of a sudden people might be like, oh crap, and then maybe they'll get a little more active or something, or like start to pressure politicians around here maybe.
And the thing is that well, not to get too political, but there's an election next year, and
exactly, yeah.
And yeah, so my assumption would be by the time the new gen consoles come out, the tariffs won't be in place. Is my assumption, but who knows? But the fact that all three of them, Microsoft, Sony, and Nintendo, came together to like talk to the government about like, hey, don't do this. I think the more it gets closer to it being an actual possibility, the more we're gonna see those corporations try to strong arm them and be like, hey, dude, we bring a lot of business into the American economy. Like, don't screw us. Sure. We'll see what happens. It's interesting.
There is something to be said. I mean, to get political, I guess, but in a more general sense, there is something to be said. I think that, most likely the reasons to place these tariffs is not for altruistic reasons of like, oh, they're being exploited in China and therefore we have to place these tariffs. It's probably more of a business thing, right? But the fact of the matter is the reason that our consoles are made in China is because they do exploit the people to such an extent that they're able to play them essentially like a slave, and we're reaping the benefits. I know that we all know this, and this is nothing new, but there might be something to be said for the fact that, like, hey, Sony, Microsoft, Nintendo, whoever, you might want to think twice about this, and maybe they all have ultra humane practices, although I shouldn't say that because they don't have. They're going through Foxconn or some third-party country for this manufacturing, so they don't have the total control over it. And we do know that places like Foxconn are the ones that have the nets outside for suicide jumpers and shit like that because the situation is so fucked up. So it may be, like I said, something that the big three want to think twice about as opposed to just saying, no, this is going to screw us up and we're going to have to place this on the customer. It's like, well, maybe you need to figure out a new solution.
Yeah. And with anything like this, I suggest people to do the research themselves and figure out how you personally feel about the tariffs, how much it'll actually affect you as an individual, and also figure out do some research and figure out why they're placing these tariffs and understand that, like you said, it's not necessarily for altruistic reasons, and it might not even be in the best interest of the United States if you do proper research. So that's that. Yeah. In another hot topic, this is breaking news today, and
hot topic.
I know we're not necessarily people who watch a lot of streams of people playing video games, but this is huge news. Yep. Ninja announced that he's going to be exclusively streaming on Mixer starting today, August 1st. This means that he automatically loses his Twitch partnership. They already removed his verification on the website because the way Twitch works is if you're a partner, you can only stream on Twitch. That's why people who are partnered with Twitch, you don't see them streaming on YouTube Live or Mixer. The details of
could you do like Instagram Live if you were a partner?
Interesting.
Like a non-gaming stream?
Probably. I
IRL shit?
But you could stream on Mixer or YouTube Live without doing gaming. So I don't know. That's a very good question. I have no idea.
True.
I don't know if Instagram Live can be monetized while you're live. You know what I mean? Whereas Mixer and YouTube Live can be monetized as you're streaming. Who knows?
Good points.
The actual deal hasn't been revealed yet of how much money he got paid. It was probably quite a bit because the result of this and the reality is that he's going to lose a large portion of his audience, right? That's a given. Him moving to another platform is going to cut his audience more than half.
Even if he was moving to a more popular platform, Jared, it fucks you because tons of people just don't want to migrate. They don't want to move. They don't want to pick up their things and take them with them and go somewhere else.
I think because obviously Mixer is owned by Microsoft and Microsoft has a lot of money, I think they realize that in order to compete with Twitch, they have to make these type of moves because they've tried advertising, they've tried all these other different avenues, and it hasn't really worked. And honestly, like I know some people can be kind of pissed off about this, but to me, this shows that Microsoft, it's one of two things. Either they're in a sense of desperation for the platform and they really need to make major moves, or, and it could also be the same thing, both of these things aren't mutually exclusive, they're really committed to making Mixer a competitor to Twitch, and they understand that this is the only way they can do that, right? And
maybe
I'm all for competition. Like, I think Twitch, people like to talk about Disney being a monopoly, yada, yada, yada. I get that argument. No one really talks about, like, how much a monopoly Twitch has become in the online marketplace in terms of streaming. Obviously, that has a lot to do with Amazon owning them and having all of the resources Amazon has. So any competition is great, and YouTube Live hasn't really been able to compete with Twitch in terms of gaming. I think this is good. I think Ninja probably got a life-changing amount of money. I think for someone like him that has the audience he had, I think that check was probably pretty big. He did announce it in a really cool way. So he released a Twitter video of him going out and doing a press conference, but it was him as different characters in the crowd asking him, like, the FAQ of what people are going to ask why he's moving, right? So it was like him dressed as like a really dorky guy. It's a really well done video. And he's been sitting on the news for a while, which it's
just before we get too far away from your point about like being good to have competition and Twitch being this kind of weird monolith in the game streaming area. I just want to say I think that Twitch's video player sucks ass. It is fucking awful. It is so bad, especially like when I'm just over here cruising on YouTube. It's playing 1080p video, no problemo. And then over on Twitch, it's struggling to stay in HD and not buffer constantly and just buckle. It's ridiculous. And I've tried it in multiple different browsers with different combinations of extensions and not, and just, I've done everything you could possibly think of, and it does not function nearly as well as YouTube. And I understand that it may be ridiculous to expect such video performance from a company that can't be nearly as large at this point, but it just sucks, man. And that's what you're doing when you're on Twitch, is watching videos.
If there was medals handed out for extremely large websites with bad video players, I think that Twitch would come in bronze, and then I think Facebook and Twitter would have a fight for silver and gold. Twitter's video player is awful. It's garbage.
I remember I haven't used Facebook other than Messenger really in several years at this point, but I think Facebook video's probably gotten better. It seems like they've been pushing that a lot as a company, but most websites other than YouTube, if they have their own video player, it just sucks, dude.
Yeah, the encoding is terrible. Like, even from somebody who like designs graphic designs and stuff, the image compression on Twitter is not great too. So like when you upload
YouTube does not have necessarily a leg to stand on when it comes to compression either.
Oh yeah,
but that's probably how they pump out video, like the way that they do. But it does. It's almost sad to see how compressed videos look on YouTube sometimes. Yeah.
So yeah, we're not the streaming guys, but Ninja moving to Mixer is huge. Whether it flames out and nothing comes of it, that could happen. But I think it's going to be really cool to see over the next couple of months how this affects not only Mixer but Ninja as an individual.
Oh yeah, so shout out Ninja, a fellow Detroit Lions fan. But I'm with you, Jared, that more competition is good, because I don't know. I'm starting to see these examples of like Twitch not being disciplinarian enough of a disciplinarian on their streamers. So I'm of two minds of this, where it's like it highlights the value of certain specific streamers and like how they they bring in a lot of money to these streaming sites. So sometimes you only ban them for 3 days when they do something horrid. But if we can create more competition and there's more streaming sites, then potentially we can start, people start ditching Twitch as viewers as a result of that. I don't know. I don't know how it would work out in that sense, but that's the kind of thing I'm thinking of going into this story.
And the thing is, like, people can hate Twitch Ninja for being cringy or playing Fortnite or all of this stuff, but the guy is really good at business and marketing himself, and he knows how to be family friendly, and he knows how to be good for a brand. And I think that's why because there's other Twitch streamers who are as popular as he is, but he's like somebody you want to partner with if you're Microsoft, right? You don't want to go to Dr. Disrespect as, you know, as somebody who should have gotten suspended for longer. That's more of the conversation.
There's too many. It's a different conversation.
Too many
people throwing cats and like dropping N-bombs and going in bathrooms or whatever it is. It's like, I mean, if I own a platform, and it's easy to say this because I'm not beholden to shareholders and stuff, but if I own a platform, I just can't imagine like letting that shit go down, and letting kids watch this stuff, and these people that sometimes act really, frankly, fucking despicably. But
and it's partially because it's the right thing to do, and it's also that you're giving power to the people on your platform and you're surrendering that. Right. So, and the more and more you do that, the less leverage you have, right? So
exactly, because the next guy's going to do something worse because it's not really punishable. Apparently.
Exactly, and then you can get into legal battle of like, well, if X person did Y and I did Y slightly different, then how come I'm getting? Yeah, it's a whole thing. Let's move on from that. Congratulations to Ninja on your giant check you have. Hopefully, you buy the Lions someday.
Please do.
Yo, my life is a video game.
Always down for people getting their due and getting a new paycheck. Last couple of quickie news stories here. So the NPD released a new study that shows that 31% of U.S. households lack a broadband connection. And most of the percentage comes from rural markets, which isn't surprising. But it's just a hard number on, we have this conversation all the time about the streaming future, how much of the U.S. actually can handle that. 31% of U.S. households don't have a broadband connection, which is slightly higher than what I thought. I thought it was like 25%.
I would have thought much less.
Yeah, it's way higher than I thought.
So, living in Tennessee, where there are obviously multiple big cities, but there are also very large swaths of rural areas, right? I happen to work I live in Nashville, but I work outside of the city. And where I work, dude, it's ridiculous how hard it is to get a decent internet connection out there. And essentially what happens is, you know, companies like Comcast, for them to give you like a solid internet connection at where you're at, they want you to pay for them to install it at whatever spot you're talking about. So that is wildly expensive, multiple thousands of dollars.
To put that into perspective, I would say Tennessee and, I don't know, I'm speaking a little bit ignorantly here, but I would say Tennessee and Michigan are probably less rural overall than New Mexico. I think New Mexico as a state, we have not that high of a population.
Absolutely.
There's pretty much 3 cities here that you can get like, we're just speaking about streaming. If you wanted to be a streamer, there's only 3 cities really you can do that in New Mexico. That's Albuquerque, which is the major city. It's Santa Fe, which is the capital, but it's actually smaller than Albuquerque. And it's Las Cruces, which is near Mexico, and it's where New Mexico State is, right? Almost anywhere else in the state where you live, it's almost impossible to get decent internet. The city I used to live in, the city I was born in, Las Vegas, New Mexico, the best internet speed you can get is 10 down, 1 up.
Damn.
Yeah.
The best.
Like I said, when I go to work in this rural office, I'm on my phone hotspot just constantly because it's unlimited, and so I'm not worried about it.
Yeah.
And it's so far beyond actually using the internet connection there that you can get. So it's just ridiculous, you know.
What were we going to say, Don?
Oh, I do know, I don't know the extent of it, but in Michigan, there was some bill where basically the government was handing over a big check to, I want to say it was Charter, maybe AT&T, or maybe all the ISPs to basically subsidize expanding their networks. Because apparently, so instead of asking, you know, the specific people in those areas
snowy states,
to front it,
it's got to be a thing.
Yeah, that's another thing, another factor too. But so yeah, I guess at least in this case, I'm of two opinions about it, but they're not asking the specific residents of those areas to front all the bill of getting them.
That's good, yeah.
Connection, but instead they're taking it from everyone else.
Yeah.
In the form of tax money, but so I mean it's however you feel about that stuff, but the end result will be it's expanded, right? So that might be what it takes because we're getting to the point where it's not really fair to people that live in those rural areas to ask them to pay 5 times or 20 times as much to be able to get the same speeds or whatever it is when internet is becoming more and more reliant for us to fucking live. That sounds extreme, but it's getting to that point, right?
But then it's the argument of people who don't even use an internet connection for their own livelihood. Should we force that on them too? And it's like,
it's a whole discussion. Yeah,
exactly.
Yeah,
politics.
I do think, though, I would say no more than 20 years, at least America, if it doesn't, completely crumble, let's say. I think you'll be looking at a situation where, let's say 97% of the country is pretty much good to fucking go with a solid internet connection.
Yeah, so I think a big part of it is like the demand isn't there because we have, there's going to be a lot of older folks who don't have internet, never needed it, don't want it, don't care. So like when ISPs are trying to, determine like, is it worth going out there, and people are like, I don't care, I don't need it. So as generations die off, I think, the younger generations are going to drive higher demand for internet, even in more rural areas.
And there's also the argument that like, there, in terms of population, we're seeing a lot more people move towards the edges of the country, right, and less in the middle. Like there's a lot of states there in the Bible Belt and up towards like the Northwest that are losing severe amounts of their population year over year because it is a younger demographic that are moving to more urban locations. And there's an idea that in the next 30 to 40 years that the way the United States will be set up is that all of its edges and coastlines will be where heavy amounts of the population are, and a lot of the middle parts of the country will be where there's agriculture and all of that stuff, because in order to meet the population of the country, we need to develop a stronger sense of agriculture and upkeep and all that stuff. It's a whole conversation for another day. It's the way the country is going to evolve. We're going to go Red Dawn and end up having to fight for our lives. Who knows? The last bit of quickie news real quick. Congratulations to Kyle Buga Giersdorf, who was the 16-year-old who won the Fortnite World Cup. He took home $3 million because he won the solo tournament. About 1.5 after taxes.
I was just going to say, he's in for a treat with that.
Jesus fucking Christ. Hey, bud, we're just going to take half of that real quick. See ya.
Trump has to go golfing this weekend. I'll get political. I don't care. But still, as a 16-year-old getting $1.5 million, that's really awesome.
Yeah,
really cool.
Kudos to him.
Let's get into these last couple of news stories. They're nothing too major, just some sales figures. So the first one, Nintendo Switch hits 37 million sold total. So as of June 30th, the Nintendo Switch has sold through 36.87 million units, getting really close to matching or topping the Xbox One. Obviously, we don't have official numbers, but it's assumed it's around 42 mil at this point.
How sad.
So the really cool thing about this article is that they updated the top-selling games for the console lifetime. So here's what we're going to do. I'm going to do it one of two ways. First of all, Dom, you have a tendency to see these lists before. Did you see this one?
I did. I only remember like the first 2 or 3, but
okay.
Yeah.
So, Jordan, we're going to do this one or two ways. Do you want the title and you guess the amount of copies, or do you want the amount of copies and you guess the title?
Copies. I'll guess the title.
Okay, so at number 5, this one sold 11 million units.
And I'm sorry, this is a Switch game?
Switch game. And these are all first party.
Oh, I was going to say,
that's what I needed to know. That's what I needed to know.
Also the 11th entry in the series in Mortal Kombat?
Okay, so this is just first party titles, how they've sold thus far on the Switch. You're talking about number 10.
Number 5.
Number one more time?
Number 5.
For number 5. Number 5.
11 million.
11 million. Okay.
I'll give you another
Mario
hint.
Kart,
I'll give you another hint. On this list, if there's multiple
Pokemon.
versions of a game, they mush them together.
Okay. Pokemon, let's go.
Yep, coming in at 11 million. Number 5. Number 4.
Big hint.
Number 4. I will say that this was higher on the list, but it's fallen off a little bit. 13.6 million units.
The Legend of Zelda Breath of the Wild?
Yep. So remember, obviously early
Nailed
on,
it!
had a higher than 1.0 attach rate, right? It was like...
Dude, it was crazy hot when that was like the only Switch game for a little while.
Number 3.
That and Snipper Clips.
Number 3, this one released... it didn't release this year. And it released in 2018. 14.7 million.
Okay, I think I know 1 and 2. Wow. Ah, fuck. Oh, man.
I mean, it's obvious the last 3
I'll
that
give
are
you this.
available, right?
It's one of the 2 multiplayer games on this list. That should be a hint.
Yeah.
But it released last year, so it's Smash Bros?
Yep, 14.7 million. Number 2.
Boy, I thought that was going to be higher.
Number
It's
2.
newer, though, so...
Yeah. It'll eventually get up there. Number 2, 15 million. This is my favorite Switch game.
That dead giveaway right there.
Dude, I'm like locking up on what one of these games is.
What was another one of the early games on Switch that everyone picked up right away?
Yeah, many moons ago.
Maybe not early
Oh,
on Switch.
duh! And that's a big hint, Dom, because it's Mario Odyssey.
Shit, I didn't think it was that obvious.
Super Mario Odyssey, 15 million, and number 1 at almost 18 million, 17.9 million units. You know what it is.
Mario Kart 8 Deluxe?
Yep, which is going to have some tough competition because at Garfield, the kart racer was recently announced.
Jesus.
Oh, Jesus Christ. Dude, I was blanking on Mario Odyssey. I was like, what is the other big Switch game?
Not surprising, the top 3 selling games on it are all the Mario titles.
Yeah.
Yeah, so crazy. I just wanted to go over that list because I thought it was cool.
And then, if you think about all 5 of them, Jared, they're all just like, Nintendo legacy staples.
Yeah,
Pokemon, Zelda, Mario.
Sword and Shield will be in this list in a couple of years. It'll pass Let's Go for sure.
Probably next
For
year.
sure.
Yeah.
Fuck, Let's Go.
I think by this time next year, Dom, I think it'll probably be number 5 or somewhere in there. Yeah.
Do you think, even though they're doing Switch Lite that's Pokemon Sword and Shield limited edition, which I personally appreciate, do you think that they did a yellow light, Switch Lite, just because it's coming out around the time of a Pokemon game?
No.
That's one of the 3 colors.
Oh, like the Pikachu thing? Possibly.
Yeah, to like connect people's mind to Pikachu, obviously.
Yeah, Matt, I hope they have a dope Switch for Luigi's Mansion. I hope it doesn't get some like crummy Super Smash Bros. Ultimate Switch.
Sorely disappointed at both the Switch Lite colors and what we've been treated to with Joy-Cons. They could be knocking it out of the fucking park, and I'm just not seeing it. So
really,
we'll see.
Really quick before we close out and say what we're going to be playing, I wanted to go over this quick list that Matt Piscatella dropped on Twitter out of nowhere. He listed the top 10 selling survival horror games of all time based on dollar sales. So remember, this is based on dollar sales, not units. So,
okay.
Number 10, Resident Evil. Number 9, The Evil Within, not counting digital.
Resident Evil.
Evil Within at number 9, not counting digital sales, which is important to note. Number 8, Dead Space 2. Rest in peace. Number 7, this is good.
Ouch, Jared.
Number 7, RE2 Remake, already in the top 10.
Wow.
Number 6, Resident Evil 6. Number 5, Resident Evil 7. Number 4, the original RE2. And this is funny. So you'll see now the top 3 are all more action than horror, but they're still technically also survival horror games. Number 3, Dying Light. Number 2, Resident Evil 4. and number 1, Resident Evil 5. So,
Okay.
Wow.
Yeah.
that shows you A, how popular Resident Evil is, and B,
Resident
how niche the survival horror genre is, that one franchise makes up like 8 of the 10 spots.
It also
And
shows
then
you
if,
how
if
loose
you were to be like,
his
what are the
definition
other
is.
survival horror franchises? It'd be like Evil Within and Dead Space.
Outlast.
What were you going to say, Dom? Oh, the definition of survival horror. It's
Yeah.
So it's based on the MPD database, so it's how the publishers list them, you know?
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
I get it.
And
I
there's
mean,
not anything that you could say is even close to survival horror that's big enough to be on that list.
Exactly, yeah.
That wasn't on that list. Like Outlast, you could say, but it's probably not
yeah,
big enough to be on that
nowhere
list.
close. Yeah.
I think the one surprise I do have is Dead Space 3, unless that game wasn't categorized as a survival horror. You know what I mean?
Maybe. Yeah.
Who knows, dude?
That game was bad, but
definitely
it sold really well.
more action. And I think that the sales probably dipped. Do you think they were more for 3?
They sold more for 3. Dead Space 3 was the best seller of the franchise, yeah.
Then why? Why have we been forsaken?
I don't know, man.
Why have we been forsaken?
Ask EA why we don't have a Mass Effect remaster trilogy yet. I'm still crying over that.
Skate.
Ask EA why we don't have any Switch games.
Skate 4.
Right. Anyways, that's it for this week's show. In terms of what we're going to be playing, Super Mario Maker 2 for me, more Madden 20. I have, 26 days till Control comes out. So I'm going to try to tackle
right.
Gears of War 4, so I have that beat by the time 5 comes out.
Oh, we control baby.
Well, the crazy thing is Control comes out the 27th, and then the first Man of Medan comes out the 30th, which I'm really excited for, too.
Ooh.
Yes.
That has a
Gonna be a
lower
wait and
price
see
point,
for
too,
me.
which is awesome. I'm glad that game's not 60.
Even right now, it's like $25 on Amazon.
Yeah, so that's like, I'm even more hyped to hop in. I was going to hop into the new Wolfenstein until I saw how much of a garbage
Wolfenstein.
can on fire it was.
Bitches.
That's pretty much it
yeah,
for...
I want to try that. That's right.
That's pretty much it for me. What about you, Dom? What are you going to be playing? More Red Dead?
Red Dead. Gonna go see John I can't even begin to.
John Marston.
Hey, Arthur, you want to come play some Red Dead Redemption?
Anything else of note?
Nah.
Jordan, more Fire Emblem?
Fire Emblem Three Houses, indeed. I'll be playing the old tree houses. And then shout out to Ghost in the Shell Standalone Complex. I'll be watching some of that. That's the one that's getting a Netflix sequel. And it's also the only Ghost in the Shell property that I had not yet experienced. I've seen the movies and the Arise prequel OVA series.
Arise.
Ghost in the Shell Arise. I enjoy Arise. Obviously, the OG movie is fantastic. Sequels, interesting. It's not terrible. I don't think it's too bad. But this is so far pretty damn solid. I think it's an early 2000s series. The Major, who's the main female protagonist, looks like Jared. You'll understand Psylocke. I guess, Dom, do you know who Psylocke is?
Olivia Munn
She's
in...
an X. Yeah, Olivia Munn played her in X-Men Apocalypse. She's an X-Men character.
Dude.
She wears a purple suit and has like a Halo energy sword as an arm
Dude,
when she uses. No.
No, I don't.
Yeah, well, you're just not going there for
X-Men,
for
I know that's...
Jared, this is the guy who asked me who Professor X is.
Yeah.
Whoa, that's
at
crazy.
one point.
Yeah.
So yeah, but anyways, she basically looks like Psylocke. It's a little much, if you know what Psylocke looks like, with quite a lot of skin hanging out and that whole purple suit thing going on.
Hold on, real quick, Dom.
Especially,
Dom, do you even know who Olivia Munn is?
I mean, yeah, I've heard the name and I might recognize her, but...
She used to host...
you didn't watch Attack of the Show back in the day, bro?
She was the girl who hosted Attack of the Show with Kevin Pereira.
AOTS.
Half Asian, half white.
I'm thinking of X-Play. So no, I don't know.
Yeah, it's basically like X-Play and Attack of the Show were the things back on G4 in the day, man.
Yeah.
Anyways, go ahead.
Right over the
head.
Yeah, I wasn't sure if you even knew who that was. That's what I wanted to ask.
Whew, testing Dom's nerd horizons here. So, her look is a little much with the whole Psylocke deal, especially when she's, she's with a special ops police force who are in like street clothes. And they're all dudes, but it's definitely got the Ghost in the Shell vibe. They're going through like Laughing Man stuff, which is certainly something that I'm familiar with. You would be if you are a fan of the Ghost in the Shell franchise. About 10 episodes in, so it is cool cyberpunk shit. We'll have to see how it goes if this ends up where this ends up on my list within the franchise, because the original movie is obviously a classic. It's incredible, and Arise is great. So still not sure how I feel about it, but I just wanted to shout it out. And also a big old shout out, I just finished season 1 of Dragon Ball Z.
Show Dom hates.
Which just...
It's just another thing.
Another area of Dom's expertise that I just can't get down with. But I love this show, man. I think that I'm certainly recognizing more now, first time watching it as an adult, recognizing that it is a lot of dudes charging up and screaming at each other in battles, which is the classic, kind of cliche joke thrown at Dragon Ball Z, but nonetheless is super accurate. But especially having gone through the 150 plus episodes of Dragon Ball and the movies and such, you really have these like character connections down in your mind on such a deep level, because you've seen them do so many different things that it's very intense, emotionally. So shout out to Dragon Ball Z. That's probably even a little bit more than Pokemon, maybe about the same, but those two series is definitely where my love of anime comes from. So just a big old shout out to Dragon Ball Z. If you're not a lover of it, Dom, I can't help you, but Kamehameha.
Dom doesn't have time to watch Dragon Ball Z. He's going to be too busy watching Pennyworth.
Yeah.
Oh,
my
God.
What would it take
you
you
gonna
to
watch Young Sheldon too? Just do like spin-offs of shows that nobody gives a fuck about.
To your earlier question though, Jordan, we got an Alfred Pennyworth show before we got a Batman Beyond show. Just let that sink in.
Well, that's not true, because Batman Beyond is a show.
Very
just
poorly
because
worded.
No. You stumbled upon something great here, Dom.
Yeah.
I do not appreciate the distinction between live action and animation, as if animation is this subpar, like underdog, back alley bullshit. Batman the Animated Series, as I was mentioning to you guys this week in our chat, is probably my favorite series of all time, full stop. There's no animated, live action, nothing. It just is that good as a television program, and it doesn't need to be real humans in makeup talking to each other. It's superb anyways, so there we go.
Thank you guys for listening to...
I don't disagree.
Thank you guys for listening to episode 153 of the Control the Church Gamecast. If you can, please follow us on iTunes, leave a review. It helps us move up in the algorithm, the oh-so-dreaded algorithm. If you go to YouTube, search Controlled Interest, we'll pop up. Subscribe to us. If you hit the bell notification under the videos, it lets you know whenever our new videos come out. And give the video a like. That also helps with the YouTube algorithm, another dastardly system. And on Twitter, if you can, please follow us at CTRLINT. That's Controlled Interest abbreviated. You can follow me at Jared_. You can follow Dom at Dom's Oreos, and you can follow Jordan at Mellow Modus. We'll catch you guys next week. Bye.